You're listening to a Prairie Punk House Companion right here on the Prairie Punk Press Network. The views expressed by any host or any guest on the Prairie Punk House Companion are the personal views or opinions of the people who express them and do not reflect the views or opinions of anyone else on the show or any company, employer, or any other organization that the individual expressing them has or will affiliate with in the past, present, or future. Hi, everybody. You're listening to a Prairie Punk House Companion. We are on episode 22. My name is Neckbone.
Hi, I'm Jerbear, and your beard is not a personality.
Are you referring to my beard specifically?
No, you have a personality besides your beard.
I shaved mine off a few weeks ago, so I'm just now growing it back. So it's kind of...
Yeah. I mean, I have a beard all the time.
Oh, yeah.
To varying lengths, but it's not my personality.
No, that's good. It shouldn't be your personality.
No, because it's not. It's just facial hair.
Right.
Same with silly mustaches.
Yeah.
Not a personality.
It's true.
It's just a silly mustache.
Just silly mustaches. When I have a beard, I'm just a schlub with a beard, and when I shave it off, I'm just a schlub with no beard. So I've been sick. I've had a congestion situation, as you can probably hear.
Congestion situation.
Mm-hmm.
Your voice sounds a little more sultry.
Oh, thanks. I have what I call this grandma voice, because this is what my grandmother sounded like. She smoked like 2 packs a day for her entire life. Mm-hmm. So,
how old was she when she passed?
She was like in her mid 80s. I quit smoking a long time ago. And it's probably good I did, because I probably would be dead by 50 if I were still smoking, because that's just the luck I would have with that.
Right. Yeah. It has been 10 full years tobacco free for me. I still have dreams about it, and I'm always disappointed in myself.
Yeah.
And grossed out.
Mm-hmm.
But it also is like soothing.
Right.
It used to be soothing.
Me too. I always my dreams are always I'm at a show, and I go outside for reasons I don't know for sure, but there's people out there smoking, and someone's like, "Hey man, you want a cigarette?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And I smoke it, and then like same thing, I'm really disappointed in myself. I'm just like, fuck, I haven't smoked in like 15 years. Why the fuck did I smoke that cigarette? That was so stupid. I wonder if that's a common ex-smoker's dream.
I imagine it probably is.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about people who have quit drinking, if they have similar nightmares to mine, where they drink and just feel like shit the next day in real life.
Oh yeah.
Like they fucked up for real, even though it was just a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll have like blackout dreams, where I'm not blacked out in the dream, because you wouldn't remember it, but right. I'm like coming to like the next day after a blackout and trying to sort out what happened.
Oh yeah, I hate that feeling.
Yeah,
that's the worst.
So my dream is just like, there's like the drinking part of the dream, and then there's the sorting out the consequences of blackouts, and I always wake up feeling just fucking terrible, and it like sticks with me all day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the worst.
Yeah. I don't drink to get drunk anymore. I just will drink a glass of wine here or there, or have like a craft beer or something. Like I never have more than like 2, because I'll just fall asleep if I do. But so I haven't been drunk in a long time. But yeah, I remember that feeling of like waking up the next day, and you're like, I don't remember how the fuck I got home. I don't remember what happened. I don't know why. Like, like I'm I still have like my fucking boots on and everything. I'm just laying in bed. I'm like fully clothed. Like,
right.
You're just like, well,
I mean, one time I woke up, I had a huge gash in my head. I had a hole in my left thumbnail, and there was blood trailing from my car up my porch and into my house, but there was no blood in my bed. I have no idea what happened. No fucking clue.
Yeah.
No idea. I drove.
That's probably not a good thing.
And made it home. My car wasn't damaged. Only I was. And there wasn't any blood in my car. So
Yeah.
I don't think it happened before I got in my car. It had to happen like between my car and my house.
Yeah.
I have no clue what happened.
Well, and
To this day, I have no idea.
for anyone who doesn't know, which probably most of you do, in Kansas back in the day, and I'm sure we've mentioned this in other episodes before. I don't remember what we've mentioned in other episodes, but it was incredibly common to drive intoxicated. I mean, it was like, that's how you got around. Wichita, Kansas doesn't have public. I mean, there's a shitty bus system that stops running at like 6 p.m. and only runs on weekdays. And like that's it. There's no, I mean, I think today they have
before Uber.
Yeah, there's Lyft and Uber today now, but in the 90s there was no app to click to get a car. If you wanted a taxi, you had to find a phone somewhere, and remember, we didn't have cell phones. You had to go find a phone somewhere. You had to look up a taxi service number in a phone book and call them and ask for a taxi to come pick you up. It was literally the only way to get around if you didn't have a car or somebody willing to drive you around. Or you just had to walk like miles and miles and miles, which we've done before.
Yeah, I did that too.
Yeah.
I would sleep in my car sometimes. Just made sure it was turned off.
Yeah.
And that the key was not in the ignition.
Yeah.
You'd still get in trouble for sleeping in your car and public intoxication, but at least it wouldn't be a DUI.
Right. Backseat, key not in the ignition. Yeah. Car fully off. I slept on, I don't remember what party. I was at some random party, but I woke up. I was sleeping on their trampoline that they had in the backyard.
Was that Anne-Marie's?
Oh, maybe.
Her mom's house?
Maybe. Do you have a trampoline?
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah.
Probably. I just remember waking up on that trampoline and being like, oh, fuck, I should go home. Because it was suddenly really, really sunny, and I did not appreciate that the sun was out.
It could have been Andrea.
Yeah, could be.
They had a trampoline too. That's the first time I met Ty, was over at her dad's house.
Oh, fan favorite.
And
Ty
was
Reynolds.
there. We want to do recent events before we jump into gatekeeping?
Yeah, let's do. Well, I guess the most recent event. How was your Thanksgiving? This is just right after Thanksgiving.
It is. It's a week after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
My Thanksgiving was good. Every Thanksgiving morning, I make quiche for the family. It was good again this year. And then we just kicked it for the afternoon, and then went over to my in-laws at 5 and had dinner and hung out. And it was actually like a really short night. So we got there around 5, and then we usually stay until 10 or 11 playing board games and stuff like that. But it ended early. Everybody was gone by 8:30, and we were at home in bed watching a movie by 9. And then Friday, we got up and went shopping with my in-laws. And then went over to my mom's house and took her some quiche and hung out there for a little while. And it was really just laid back and chill. So
nice.
No complaints other than being temporarily laid off right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I've been fighting with the unemployment office for my benefits ever since. I finally got it sorted yesterday, but the amount that I was told I was going to get versus the amount that they're actually going to pay me is significantly different. So instead of only losing about $500 in wages, I'm going to lose $1,000 in wages right at Christmas. So that's fucking rad.
Yeah. So my parents came up for Thanksgiving up here to Chicago, and they
live out of state, right?
What's that?
They live out of state.
Yeah, they do. They still live in Kansas.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah. So they came up. They came up for Thanksgiving. And I invited them several months ago without even thinking about the fact that this is going to be after the election. Something I probably should have taken into account. But yeah, they came up, and from the go, they started talking about things that will directly affect my family as if they won't. And I basically told them what I thought of Donald Trump and Elon Musk and everybody. I said, I'm going to say this one time. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think of these people. And then we're going to not talk about politics the rest of the time you're here. Because I want you to know why we shouldn't talk about politics. So that's why I'm going to state I already know your position. My parents are ultra conservative. They are the biggest Trump apologists, and I don't know why. They're the Elon Musk and JD Vance apologists, and I don't know why. These people don't give a shit about them. But man, oh man, they will lick billionaire boots. It is really depressing to see my parents like this. To just see them just so beholden to these oligarchs is just unbelievably depressing, and it feels like it's even worse than I thought it was. I thought that they were just kind of, for a long time I was in denial. I thought they were just kind of apolitical and just kind of voted Republican because they always had, and was like, okay, whatever, we'll just, avoid these topics and things will be fine. But even though I told them day one, okay, this is the last time we're going to talk about politics. Here's what I think of these people. This is why we shouldn't talk about it, because this is what I think of these people. You're not going to change my mind. And I don't need to hear little snarky remarks all day, every day. And that's what they do. My parents make these little snarky remarks because, like most conservatives, they're the sorest fucking winners I have ever fucking seen. My God, your dude won. Your dude won the election. I didn't even have anyone in the running. I voted for the other person because that's how bad your dude is.
Right.
So I didn't even have actual skin in the game, but I still just didn't want that dude to be president. Your dude won. Right. And for some reason, you feel the need to continue to make these snarky remarks, like calling Kamala Harris's morals and ethics into question, which is weird, because I mean I probably could for different reasons than they would, but she aligns pretty well with what they like, so it's just odd to me that they would. She lives a pretty conservative lifestyle. She was a fucking district attorney, I mean,
she's America's top cop,
right? Like, I'm just like, she's more your person than my person, so
right.
I don't understand these snarky remarks. The only thing I can think of is like, I mean, my parents obviously have some deep-seated racism and misogyny, and that's what it really is. I didn't realize until this last week, like, how much my parents, and even my mom, maybe even especially my mom, is just a total misogynist. My mom is a woman who hates women, and it's something.
Does she? I mean,
it's just weird.
How did they talk about Biden?
Oh, I mean, the way they talk about they don't like Biden, but they don't talk about him as much as they've talked about Obama and Harris. Obama and Harris are the focus of their ire, and boy, I sure wonder why they chose those two. Boy, I wonder what makes them different than the other Democrats that are big right now.
Right.
And I am
curious.
I'm not an Obama apologist. I'm not a Harris apologist.
No.
But attacking them along those lines is fucking reprehensible. Just attack them on policy. Jesus, it's not hard.
That's like, I had some issues with how leftists were attacking Clinton in 2016.
Yeah.
Like, she has plenty of policy issues.
Yeah.
To call out. You don't need to talk about how she's a woman.
Right.
You don't need to talk about how she's got a shrill voice. None of that shit fucking matters.
Doesn't matter.
Talk about the issues.
Yeah.
Talk about the fucking issues. It drives me up a fucking tree.
Yeah.
And that's from, a leftist perspective.
Right.
Leftists attacking her, but from like a misogynist angle. That's fucking bullshit. It sucks.
Right. My mom made some comment, And this was after I gave my parents a speech about no political talk. I had to slap both of their hands multiple times and be like, red light, red light. Hey, you're like a fucking child. Stop talking about it. What did I tell you the first day you were here? My God, just don't talk about it. The sorest fucking winners I have ever seen. My God, they fall into that trap just so completely. But yeah, like my mom made some comment about some she was telling a story about somebody who had nothing to do with Kamala Harris, whose just last name happened to be Harris, who was, she was talking about, this, scallywag from the past, whose last name, somebody, who she said was not a good person, who she knew whose last name was Harris. And she was just like, then she had to make some comment of like, well, he's probably related to Kamala because he's a bad person. She's a bad person. I'm just like, but
how many Harrises are in the world?
It's such a fucking common last name. It's such a common last name. Her name is, be Smith. My God, like what the fuck are you even talking about? Right. Just another generic ass fucking name. Like, why even make the comment? I wasn't even thinking that when she was telling the story. I was like, I didn't even put that together because it's that common of a last name.
Right.
So I'm just like, why did you have to bring that up? And I think that my parents think that I'm like a big Harris backer because to them that's left. Because they don't know any better. So
I mean, I guess, do you guys like jibe one another often? Is that like how you interact with each other, is giving each other shit?
Not really. No,
or,
it just becomes.
Okay.
It just becomes.
It doesn't even make sense then.
It just becomes yelling matches, and it's really fucking unpleasant. And it's one of the reasons why I dread my parents coming here, because they just won't fucking shut up about it. And look, I have conservative friends and family members, and I'm just like, I just need you to not. I wouldn't be talking about it if any of my people ever won. If anybody that I liked even actually got far enough to even be a fucking contender, but like I would just be like, hey, even if I was going to say anything, I'd say, hey, I know you don't like my person, but I think when they take office, you'll see that you too will benefit from many of the things that they implement. And I just don't want you to, I don't want you to feel bad. Like I would console them a little bit. I wouldn't just,
There's nothing to be afraid of.
That's kind of fresh on my brain is my parents' visit. And I am 100% alone in my family. I'm the only leftist. The closest I have, and that includes all of my extended, everybody I'm related to. The only one who even comes close is my sister, who is, I think, just a centrist, or she just doesn't care about politics. Really. Yeah. I mean, she's just like, I don't have time for that. So, but that's the closest. That's my only, the only person that I can really like talk to at family events where I'm like, well, you're somewhat reasonable. So we can actually have a conversation. That's great.
Yeah. I kind of irked my wife talking about politics at her folks' house with her sister. And it wasn't anything bad. She just didn't want to listen to us. We weren't arguing or anything like that. We were just discussing what happened. And it was kind of like, well, what do you, in 4 years, what are Republicans going to do? Yeah. What are Democrats going to do? Who do you think they're going to put up? That's all we were talking about, just speculating on 4 years later, because I don't think either party has anywhere to go.
No.
At this point.
No.
My wife was just like, I don't want to hear this.
Yeah.
So we stopped talking about it. Yeah.
Understandable.
That's what you do.
Right.
Someone voices displeasure in the conversation. You just stop talking about
it. And I get it.
It's fine.
As left wing as I am, like I totally get where she's coming from, where it's just like, I just don't want to fucking talk about this all the time. I have other shit that interests me too.
Right. Yeah. And it wasn't even a long conversation. I would say maybe 45 seconds, 50 seconds. And she was like already tired of it. So we just talked. Yeah. I think we talked about anime after that.
Oh, nice.
So it is Wednesday, December 4th.
Yes.
And something happened this morning in current events.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell us what that was.
So in New York City, a man
New
named
York City.
New York City, a man named Brian Thompson, was the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, which is a healthcare insurance company, was murdered by somebody, targeted. This wasn't a random event. He wasn't just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was targeted and killed
right before an investors meeting.
Right before an investors meeting. And it should be noted that UnitedHealthcare, from the statistics I found just from a quick search, has the highest claims denial rate of any healthcare system in the country. And they are at 32%, according to the statistic I saw. 32% denial. 1/3 of all claims.
32 people out of 100 people get their claims denied.
Yep.
And I don't suppose either of us know how many millions of people they cover, but it's in the millions.
Yes.
Tens of millions, I would guess. There's no whitewashing what he has done. I made a post about it. I made a pithy joke. I think I said, looks like UnitedHealthcare has some capital freed up. I wonder if it'll go towards providing service for customers. That was my joke. Fairly innocuous, I didn't say I was celebrating his death overtly.
Yeah.
But I got scolded in my comments by someone who works for that company and has had dealings with him and said that he was a nice guy and has a family.
They're always nice guys.
And stuff like that. And while, yes, I feel bad that his family has lost him. I also take into account the millions of people that have been denied coverage and assumed thousands of people at least that have died because of not getting that service and profiting off of the suffering of sick people. A nice guy does not make.
Right.
You're a scumbag.
Yes.
He was a scumbag. I don't know what he was like as a father, as a husband, as a son, as a brother. I don't know, and I don't care. That's none of my business.
Right.
What I care about is how he is a profiteering scumfuck who made millions on the back of sick people who needed help and were denied that help.
Right.
And sickness is not a profit motive, and it's disgusting that his salary was $10 million a year. Fuck you. When the universe takes out the garbage, I'm not going to be sad.
What was the movie? I think it came out last year. It was about the normal lives of the Nazi death camp commandant. They were lived in the suburbs right outside the camp, and it just showed their normal lives and how nice of a guy he was. It was obviously critiquing that the fact that people just ignore the horrible things that are happening right next to them. But and I'm not going to compare this guy to the Nazis, but but just in the sense of, I'm sure that there were lots of people who would have said that guy was a really nice guy. He was he was a good father, a good husband,
a good boss, maybe even
a good boss. Yeah. But he sure did kill a lot of Jewish people, Roma, leftists, gay people.
You're talking about the Nazi.
The Nazi, yeah. And also probably the UnitedHealthcare guy too.
Yeah.
But it does. Are you familiar with who Adolf Eichmann is or was? He was one of the engineers of the Holocaust. So he went to trial after the end of the war, and before he came into the courtroom, people were expecting this villainous
monster.
monster to walk in, and everybody noted after he walked in how normal he seemed, and people said how polite and nice he was. They're all fucking nice people when you talk to them face to face. They're all polite people. They know how to exist in, a civil, when they're in a civil setting. They know how to do that.
Right. Just because somebody conforms to social norms does not mean they're not a fucking monster.
Right. Yeah.
Does not mean that their wealth isn't on the backs of sick and dying people. Doesn't mean their power is not attained by the murder of 6 million Jews.
Right.
Just because they're polite and conform to social norms. Like, who fucking cares about that?
It's irrelevant.
They care about what you do. And what he did, what that company does, is place a profit on the lives of sick people.
Right.
And that is inexcusable, unjustifiable, and he's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
The world is a better place without him.
Yeah. And just along those same lines, I do want to make a comment about him, and I want to make sure that I don't say anything too inflammatory. So, I don't want a bunch of right-wing chuds after me, or, the 2 or 3 that might hate listen to our podcast. But I'm going to quote Rush Limbaugh, somebody that they really like. I'm going to say the same thing about Brian Thompson that Rush Limbaugh said about Kurt Cobain right after he died. And I'm not a big Cobain fan. I'm not a big Nirvana fan. I like one of their albums, the one that had all the B-sides on it. But, overall I didn't care. But Kurt Cobain made songs and was pretty harmless. This guy is a fucking monster, and is, if you really want to dig deep, I think that there is a 100% chance that he is responsible for people dying. 32% of claims get rejected. I mean, there's people who opted out of things that probably could have saved their lives. So I'll just use the exact same wording that Rush Limbaugh did. So I'm not too over the top, because conservatives are fine with what Rush Limbaugh says. So Brian Thompson is a worthless shred of human debris. There we go. The exact same words. And just so people know too, the Blue Cross Blue Shield network will not cover anesthesia for some of the more extended surgeries any longer if you live in New York, Connecticut, or I think it's New Jersey, kind of the Northeast. So you will be charged, even though you're going to be
kidding me?
Asleep on the table. If it goes over the time, if the surgeon takes longer, or if there's complications and goes over the time, you will be charged for the anesthesia. Beyond that time, according to Blue Cross and Blue Shield, the name of their CEO is Kim A. Keck, K-E-C-K. And I don't know how much she made this year, but in 2022, she made $4 million. $4 million. So I hope you don't need any lengthy surgeries to save your life, because you will be charged for the anesthesia. If you have an issue with that, please, I encourage you to reach out to Kim A. Keck, K-I-M-A-K-E-C-K. You can Google how to contact her, and you can reach out to Blue Cross Blue Shield directly if you like. And I encourage everyone to do so, and let them know what you think about that.
Non-violently.
Non-violently, yes. I do not advocate for breaking the law.
Yes,
and
we're predominantly pacifist.
Yes. Yep.
So we'd never encourage anyone to do violence.
No. Yeah, I would never advocate for harming somebody physically, or breaking the law. I would never advocate for that. And just a quick note about Elon Musk, my favorite billionaire. He is now targeting low-level civil servants and calling them out and sicking his Twitter army on them by name. These are like mid-level bureaucrats who are just doing their job in random departments through our government. He is targeting them by name now. So that's fun. That's the world we live in.
When the world's richest man can have a vendetta against middle management bureaucrats.
I do find it interesting too that Elon Musk, who is a private citizen, will have the ear of the next president with his Doge department.
What a stupid fucking name.
Yeah, that's how much of a joke it is to them. That's how much of a joke it is. And there's people who are going to lose their jobs and their livelihoods because of it. And people who will be losing their jobs because a billionaire private citizen just thinks they're lazy for whatever reasons he's decided in his head. He doesn't know them. He just thinks they're lazy or thinks that they're not loyal to his guy.
I just have to say, Elon Musk is the Temu Thomas Edison, and I don't respect either of them.
And I'll go ahead and make my plug for delete your Twitter, everybody. Just delete it.
Yeah.
Walk away.
We deleted ours.
Yep. It's gone. Just walk away from Twitter. You don't need it. It didn't exist 15 years ago, and you lived just fine without it back then. You can live just fine without it now. If you must, get on Blue Sky or Threads or whatever, or just use something else. Yeah. You'll live. You'll survive. Don't give that man anything. So we should probably get started with the actual episode.
Yeah, let's do that.
Now that we've been yammering about politics.
What are we going to talk about?
I don't know. But, to our audience, let us know, too, if you like us talking in length about political shit at the beginning before we get into punk rock shit. Let us know. Or if you're just like, just less talk, more rock, then let us know that, too. We might listen to you or we might not. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see how many people say something.
Before we get into the meat of the episode, I went to a show on Saturday. My friend's band played their record release show, and it was super good. And they're called Holding, and it's like heavy post rock, and is incredible. And I don't know where they found their drummer, but their drummer fucking shreds.
Nice.
He is a powerhouse. It was incredible watching him. I was there with Torin, and we both kept making stink faces at the drummer, which in music is a good thing. He was so fun to watch, and he was so tight and doing lots of interesting shit. It was incredible.
Nice.
Young guy too. He's like early 20s.
Okay.
He's fucking tearing it up. It was badass.
Where'd they play?
And they played at the new Harvester Arts spot, which is in the Lux building, which is apartments in Wichita on First and Main. First and Market, something like that.
It's not where my beloved Shirkmere used to be, is it?
No.
Okay.
No. It's west of that.
Okay.
Was Shirkmere on First?
It was on Topeka and First, I think. Yeah.
No, it was Second.
Second
okay.
and
Topeka. Yeah.
Okay, Topeka and Second.
Because it's one way. It's one way going west, which is Second Street.
Yep.
First Street is one way going east.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
The Shirkmere is no more.
I know. That makes me sad.
And me too.
Yeah, I love the Shirkmere.
So yeah, I just wanted to update that real quick. That they made it out to a show. It was really good. There were lots of younger folks there. It was rad. All right, now we can talk about what gatekeeping in punk rock.
Oh yeah. The thing that
is that what we're doing?
Yeah, the thing that the episode is named. We're finally getting to that. So no wonder people keep clicking off like 30 minutes in. As long as these fuckers aren't talking about anything that's the name of the episode makes no sense. These guys aren't even talking about that. We said we were going to be all over the place.
Wildly off topic.
Right. But yeah, gatekeeping. Yeah, we're talking about gatekeeping in punk, and I know everybody has their own stories about gatekeeping. And if you've been in punk any amount of time, if you have been into punk rock for more than a month, then somebody has gatekept you already, and that shit will continue as long as you're into punk. And I'm sure it's that way in a lot of communities too. Trust me.
Yeah, I imagine so. Any subculture is going to have a certain level.
My other major subculture is I'm a Trekkie, and man, oh man, Trekkies sure do fucking gatekeep too. Holy crap. But yeah, we're here to talk about punk rock gatekeeping. We'll talk about Star Trek gatekeeping on whatever Star Trek podcast I end up coming out with. It's only a matter of time. It's going to happen. But yeah, like I know we all have stories, and I think Johnny told us a story about. Didn't he tell us a story about somebody gatekeeping him when he was like a kid?
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what do you remember what that was?
I don't remember.
Okay.
No.
Well, to our audience,
my brain is Swiss cheese.
Go back and listen to our episode where we interview Johnny, and you'll figure it out.
We love Johnny. Just go back to listen to him anyway.
Right. It's a great episode.
We love Johnny.
When was the first time you were gatekept in punk?
I don't know that anybody kept me from any information or out of anywhere, but I was mocked for sure. I was treated as a poser and as a joke by some crusty folks who I really looked up to them. I knew who they were before meeting them, and I thought they were super cool, and I happened to see them at a movie and tried to talk to them, and they just completely blew me off and then talked shit on me to somebody that I knew, and it was a big bummer. So I was like, I was trying to learn, and it did not go well.
Yeah.
Made me feel real bad. Yeah. And then, the other instances would be more like upper crust type shit where, I was fucking, crusty patches, everything that you think of when you think of a crust punk. And, doing like political stuff, and it was just never enough because I drank too much, that I wasn't a serious activist, which, it's kind of punk because it's in the punk scene. It was punk rockers treating me that way, but it was more on the activist side of punk rock rather than like community or music or something like that. And then, there was that time with Squirrel at your apartment who basically told you you weren't really Irish because your last name is not an Irish last name.
Right. Yeah. Even though,
but I don't want to steal your thunder on that.
Right.
I had to remind you.
I'm Scots Irish anyway,
right.
So I'm Scottish, I'm Irish, I'm English, and I'm Welsh. I'm the whole damn British Isles. So.
Right. I did not like that guy. He made me very uncomfortable because I think we were talking about earlier how, like, if somebody is like an unknown quantity, like if I don't know how they're going to behave, I don't know what they're going to do, I get very, very uncomfortable and feel very, very unsafe. And that dude made me feel super unsafe. Like I thought that at any moment he could have kicked one of our asses.
Yeah.
And stole all of our shit and left.
Yeah.
It was a very uncomfortable night, and I wish that he had not been there.
Yeah, he was a very unpleasant person. I don't know whatever happened to him.
He was traveling through. Fucking Andrea brought him over to your apartment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Big Tim Pool fan, that one.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, I haven't thought about her in a while. I remember hearing about her kind of plummet into alt-light or whatever the fuck Tim Pool's calling himself now. The fucking hack, not a journalist, by the way. Tim Pool, not a journalist. Has no journalism training.
How many millions did he get from that Russian oligarch?
Right. Yeah.
To spread their propaganda.
Tim Pool is just, he's a propagandist and an opportunist.
$100,000 and $100,000 episode.
Right.
And I don't say that because I care about Russian propaganda or anything like that.
Right.
I care because he says he's an independent quote unquote journalist, and he's being paid massive quantities of money
Yeah.
for spreading propaganda.
Right.
That's not independence. That's being a fucking shill for
It is.
whoever's paying you. There's no ethics behind that. It's very unscrupulous, and I don't take anything he says seriously because he doesn't have any fucking scruples.
Right.
Doesn't have any ideology. He is just doing what makes him the most money. Kind of like the Young Turks are doing now.
Yeah, exactly. Just go where the money is. Yeah. And we can definitely get into the Young Turks too, but at least the Young Turks has at some points had some sort of journalistic integrity sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Tim Pool is, by the way, when I say he's not a journalist, I mean, he has no journalism background. He didn't work in real journalism. He never worked for, as far as I know, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, he never worked for a newspaper or TV station. No, he never went to journalism school. He never worked as a journalist at any fucking capacity other than just walking around at the what was the Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street?
Yeah, Occupy Wall Street.
He just walked around Occupy Wall Street with a fucking camera. That's all he did.
That's it. That's all he did.
Anybody could have done that.
That's how he got famous.
Like he got the he
was
doing
telling
the right
truth,
thing
man.
At the right time.
He's just here to tell the truth, man.
He's not a smart man. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that. It pains me to have to point this out to people sometimes, and I'm sure anyone listening to our podcast already knows this. So I'm just preaching to the choir. But
are you gatekeeping?
Okay, for journalism, I will gatekeep. Yes, Tim Pool is a commentator. Alex Jones is a commentator. All of these people, most of the people on Fox are fucking commentators. They're not journalists any more than on our side, Jon Stewart is not a journalist. But the difference is that Jon Stewart says he's not a journalist. He admits, I'm not a fucking journalist. I'm a comedian who has a show, and I just point shit out sometimes. That's fine. And if that's all Tim Pool was doing, then I'd still disagree with everything he said, but I'd at least be like, well, at least he's not claiming to be a fucking journalist. I don't know. It pains me that he's from Chicago. That pains me. Yeah. Yeah. Also, you know who else is from Chicago? Nick Fuentes. You saw he got doxxed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sure did.
I know where his house is.
Did you see what else came out? That he was getting a Hummer from Destiny.
Yeah, that's right.
Nick Fuentes also said it was gay to have sex with women.
Yes. If you
explain it. Tell me how that works.
It's gay to didn't he say it's gay to have sex with women if you're not attempting to impregnate them?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Thanks,
People
Nick Fuentes.
Anyway, let's get back to actual gatekeeping. What about you? Mm-hmm. What gatekeeping experiences did you have from the receiving end?
My first gatekeeping experience, receiving gatekeeping, was, I guess it wasn't really, it's not a punk story. It was from my metal days. So I went to, and I don't know if I've told this story before on the podcast, but I was going to see a band live called Sepultura, if anyone knows who that is. Nice. They're a Brazilian metal band. And I was a huge fan of Sepultura at the time, but I was still pretty young. I want to say I was 13 or 14. Maybe. And so I was still dressed in the clothes that my parents bought me. So no metal t-shirts, no long hair. I think I just started growing my hair out, but it was still just like, middle part and a slightly long nerd cut. And I think I was wearing like a polo shirt and some jeans or something like that. And we stopped off, before we went to the show, we stopped off at a restaurant. I think it was like a Taco Bell or something like that. No, it's Taco Grande. Sorry, it's Taco Grande.
Okay. There is still one in town.
Is there? Is it the one off of West Kellogg?
No.
Oh, okay. That's the one I went to.
It's on South Seneca.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, it's not the one. The one on South Seneca. I think Stein used to work at that one.
Pawnee and Seneca-ish.
Maybe that's the one he worked at. I don't know. Stein, if you listen to this podcast, reach out and let us know which Taco Grande you worked at. Thanks. Yeah, so I was going to the Sepultura show. I was at the Cotillion. So we were out that way, and this group of metalheads, really obvious metalheads, they were probably 18 to 20 years old, just post high school adults, but young adults. And they came up and just fucking started talking shit on me. Just mad. And I was like 13 or 14 at the time. I was like a kid, basically.
Who were you with? Your parents?
No, I was with a couple of older kids well, they were in high school, but I was still in middle school. But yeah, they were from the Catholic school. I was still in Catholic school at the time. And yeah, they just came up and were just ripping into me. And I just remember standing there and being like, I'm just like eating a fucking burrito before I go see this band play. Because I forget, somebody I was with or somebody like saw them and was just like, hey, you guys going to the Sepultura show? We're going to the Sepultura show. And they were like, they came up to me and they were like, New Kids on the Block is next week or something like that. I don't know, or whatever. Whatever boy band. I think it was New Kids on the Block. Whatever boy band was big at the time. But I just remember thinking like, dude, I've only known about metal for like 6 months tops. Like I still had like, I was getting like the records I was buying was like AC/DC, Iron Maiden, like generic metal, like the metal that like that you first hear about, Black Sabbath, Metallica, and I don't know how I discovered Sepultura. That was probably the least famous band that I had gotten into. But yeah, that was the first time I experienced Gatekeeping in person.
Metalheads are pretty elite about shit. Maybe more than punk rockers.
Yeah. Which is weird.
So that sucks.
Yeah.
So 2 really standout moments of me being shitty to younger kids getting into punk rock were there was this kid. I don't know how I got to this house. I think I was like trying to talk to this girl or something. She wanted to go to this house. Anyway, this dude with a pink mohawk, which I was like, oh, cool. He's got a pink mohawk. I had a mohawk, but it wasn't dyed because my mom disallowed it and my school disallowed it. I know, not very punk rock to, not do what you want, but, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was huffing paint, which was decidedly not cool to me at the time. Still not cool, if there was any question there. And then he proceeded to say that the Smashing Pumpkins were the best punk rock band ever. And so I roundly mocked and chided him for such a stupid opinion.
Yeah.
Now, how I would handle that situation is I would probably be like, oh, you like punk rock? That's cool. Here's what I like. If you like that, you should check this out. And maybe point them in a direction that is not the Smashing Pumpkins, because, there are some fine Smashing Pumpkins songs, I suppose.
Sure.
Yeah. They're not punk rock.
Yeah.
And they were certainly not the greatest punk rock band.
No. And Billy Corgan is definitely not punk rock.
Right. And this would have been probably 95 or 96. So they had already peaked.
Yeah.
Like they were already as famous as they were ever going to get.
Yeah. They're already past Simon's Dream. Yeah.
And then, that was after Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness.
Yeah.
And then the other thing in high school, there was this kid who bought sunglasses that were branded as Anarchy sunglasses. And they had a giant janky circle A on the side with, like the super shitty looking circle A that's all like huge lines that go outside of the circle. And like, aesthetically, I appreciate the more calm circle A, which is just an A with the circle around it.
Yeah.
I don't need all the fancy shit.
It's the one that we have on our punk movie review logo. Yeah, just the low key
normal
one.
A, normal circle around it. I need all that. Anyway, he had those, and I was like, you bought sunglasses from the mall that are branded as anarchy. Offered my opinion of the oxymoron, or the idiosyncrasy that was, and then mocked and chided him for making such a stupid decision. And I guess when I was a bartender, he used to come to my bar much later, and I guess he wrote a paper on what an asshole I was to him about those fucking sunglasses.
Yeah.
And that was pretty funny.
I mean, you think, he should be able to look back on it and be like, yeah, that was kind of ridiculous. Like we all do. Like, I mean, that's absolutely something I would have done when I was like 15, 16. Is about like, yeah, I'm at the mall. Look at this anarchy sunglass. Like, I absolutely would have done that. But looking back on it now, that is
using anarchy as a marketing ploy to sell cheap plastic goods.
Right.
Sounds a little silly.
I call it Sex Pistols anarchy. That's that. Yeah. Then there's real anarchy, which, when you're in high school, that is the kind of anarchy that you first learn about and first kind of, at least for me, that was when I said I was an anarchist. I was not talking about, like reading Kropotkin or something.
Kropotkin,
I wasn't talking about that. I was just talking about like, I just want to do whatever I want, whenever I want. Well, yeah.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Those are the two biggest instances I remember. I'm sure there are others. We did give Dave a lot of shit for being a Christian and punk rock, which probably wasn't very nice. Back then I was much more of an anti-theist than I am now. As I've gotten older, what somebody believes as far as religion goes is much less important to me than economics. I mean, my focus in any political activism is class war, basically. Economic solutions will fix so many of our problems, and capitalism exploits everyone, particularly people of color, immigrants, and women,
and people, anyone in the global South, basically.
And I feel bad for giving Dave so much shit back then. That wasn't it wasn't cool. It was super shitty. Mostly, by the time I got out of high school, I realized that it's a community, and we should welcome people into it and help them along the way instead of being a shitty elitist about it. Like, it doesn't do anybody any good to gatekeep that. With some exceptions, which we can talk about later. But do you have any memories of being shitty to younger punks?
Oh, so many.
Gatekeeping.
Holy shit! I mean, I was gatekeeping when I was younger. I was gatekeeping everybody. I was gatekeeping fucking like people for punk stuff. If I didn't think it was, authentically punk enough, which I guess I was the judge of whether it was or not.
Right. You get to decide.
Right. As the gatekeeper of, whether metal bands were good or not good. I was the gatekeeper of, whether the hip hop people listen to was sufficiently underground enough. Like, cool. Yeah. You listen to Ice Cube. I mean, it's a little mainstream, but I guess we all got to start somewhere, right? I'd say shit like that, but just I don't know why I felt the need to be such an asshole about just everything. The science fiction people watched and read, just I was incredibly judgmental about anything I was into, and even some shit I wasn't into. I'd make sweeping statements about what counted as music and not music. And it's just kind of embarrassing to look back on that today. And especially when I hear like Ben Shapiro say things like rap's not music as just a sweeping statement. Not rap is not music that I like. Okay, that's fair enough. You don't have to like anything. I don't like country, but it's still music. I don't get to decide what's music and not music. And I think a lot of that comes with maturity too.
Yeah, I agree. And when we talked about doing this episode and talking about gatekeeping, I kind of made the analogy that it's like working in your first kitchen. Like you start off as a dishwasher, you don't know shit, and people help you along, and then eventually you get to be a line cook. And then when you're a fresh line cook, like you think you're hot shit, and you are also really self-conscious and have to prove yourself. And that's kind of what that stage of being a punk rocker is, where you're proving how punk rock you are by shitting on people that don't know as much as you. And then you grow out of that, and you learn that it's better to help people than chide them and criticize them for not knowing as much as you do, because everybody starts out a dishwasher.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've talked about a lot. The first punk band I got into was NoFX, which is, a starting point. If you don't branch out from there, then you're just still at that starting point. There's nothing wrong with liking NoFX, and I don't. When I try to get people into music that they may not know about that I think they might be interested in, I'm not saying you can't like that other stuff anymore. You can still like the stuff you always liked. I still like NoFX. I just didn't stop there. That was my starting point. But yeah, I still like them. I still like Bad Religion. Those are entry-level punk bands. Sure, of course. I think they are. Nothing against them. But they play for a wider audience. They play for a more general audience than just punk rockers. I mean, they're poppy, and that expands their audience into normies. It just does. And some of these bands, I would say maybe when they started, they were punk or punk inspired. But I mean, I say that all the time. It's fine to like bands that are punk. I still like the Breeders to this day. I don't think they were a punk band.
No.
That's okay. That doesn't mean that I am not going to like them. They were a punk inspired indie alternative band from the 90s. Right. Like that's
What about Jawbreaker? What do you consider them?
I mean, pop punk, like really, poppy punk. Yeah.
They never considered themselves a punk band.
Yeah.
They never called themselves a punk band, but they came from that East Bay scene and were largely considered a punk band by people there.
And maybe that's why I still associate them with punk, is because they're just from that scene. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, they get
I see them much more as an emo band.
Oh, okay.
And I think, and maybe that's because of Jets to Brazil. I just associate the two so much, because I didn't get into Jawbreaker when they first came out, or when they first got big. I didn't like them because I was too punk rock for them.
You already passed that point in your
I was
punk rock.
I was listening to fucking Ass Rash and shit. I didn't have time for Jawbreaker. Singing about girls, fuck that.
Didn't you have an Osrotten butt flap? Was that you?
Yeah, I sure did. Yeah, that was me. Yep. So yeah, I associate Jawbreaker more, like I associate them with Jets to Brazil, and I love both of them, and so I from today's lens, I guess it would be, or from a 2000s-ish lens, view them as more emo. And I mean, there's arguments to be had that emo is a kind of punk rock or hardcore. I don't know. We don't need to get into that whole argument today.
There's a whole lot of crossing over and kind of bands that span several different genres, even within just different albums.
Right.
I mean, look at Chumbawamba.
Right. Yeah.
As an example.
Another thing I just remembered, I was talking to a friend today, and she's I sent her the article about the podcast from The Shout, which shout out to The Shout Wichita for doing an article on the podcast.
Yeah. And that article, we have the link to that on our webpage now. So if you go to our homepage at www.prairiepunkpress.com, you can click on that article and read it. You should.
But so that cover photo, she was talking about how crafty we were because like we made all our jackets. I mean, we didn't make the jackets, but we put all the studs and spikes and patches and paintings on them, and all the jewelry that I'm wearing in there, I made that. And so like she was talking about how crafty we were, which reminded me of when Aaron M first hung out with us. He got so fucking annoyed with us because all we were doing was talking about politics and sewing patches on our pants, and he thought we were so fucking lame. Which, I mean, it's not really gatekeeping, but it's certainly like a different vein of punk rock.
Right.
Experiencing the boring lives of crusties when they're not out, like getting wasted and causing chaos.
Right.
Just sitting around sewing patches like some fucking grandmas.
Yeah. And just talking about politics with, at that age, presumably a limited understanding of actual politics. Yeah.
For sure.
I'll give one last gatekeeping story. I've told this. I told this in our punk movie review podcast. When I went to the Outhouse, I think it was the second time I went to the Outhouse, and I swear to God, I don't remember what band was fucking playing. I don't think I'd even ever heard of them. So I was, I think I left to go piss outside in the cornfield, and when I came back, there was some guy at the door who I guess maybe I didn't look sufficiently punk enough. Or something, or maybe it was age because I was still young. I think I was barely 18. And he was like, yeah, you're not old enough to get in here. You got to be 21 or something like that. And which there was no age limit at the Outhouse. Right. There was no staff as far as I know.
Right.
And I was just like, oh shit. Okay. And I thought he was like the bouncer. And I went back to my friend's car and I was like, hey, that guy said I can't go in because I'm not old enough. Or I think I said that staff member said I can't go in, and they're like, nobody works here. That guy doesn't work here. He's just some asshole. So that was he was a literal keeping me from getting inside the outhouse. He was gone by the time I got back, though. Like I think he was just fucking with me because I didn't look as punk rock as he did,
or just because he thought it was funny.
Or that could be both, or maybe a little bit of both, or maybe because I was young, or I don't know. There's times where gatekeeping is okay, and I would say that probably the time that is the most obvious that gatekeeping is okay is keeping Nazis out of your scene. That's okay 100% of the time.
Yeah,
I don't know how or why there are Nazis involved in punk. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. If you look at the tenets of the National Socialist Party of Germany in the 1930s, there's nothing punk about those fuckers. There's no way to even mistake anything that they did for being remotely punk. So I don't know how there's any crossover, but there is for some reason.
Why neo-Nazi skinheads embraced Jamaican culture so much, because that's where the skinhead
the
scene originated from.
Skinheads in London were like Caribbean immigrants into, or the children of the Caribbean immigrants. They were working class Caribbean people who were working in London. That's where the scene comes from, and that's why there a lot of the music from that has Caribbean beats to it. Like there's a reason for that. And why ska even sounds the way it does.
Right. So. It sounds like reggae for a reason.
Right.
And originally ska was kind of much more similar to reggae than what a lot of people think of by ska, which would be like the third wave from the 90s, which
real big fish.
No doubt.
Yeah. No doubt. Right.
But it's weird because there's that Jamaican side of the skinhead culture, and then there's soccer hooliganism, which kind of came together And then mod culture, which also kind of came together with that. Like
Yeah.
all three of those groups of people kind of meshed, and there's still separate, but a lot of intermingling with the fashion of that.
And they were all working class, or the children of working class people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't really know where the races came from. Maybe from the soccer hooligans. I don't know.
Maybe.
But
yeah.
yeah. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is Screwdriver, and the National Front in the UK. Yeah. We've talked about having to deal with Nazis on the podcast quite a bit. Keeping the scene free of bigots is really important. And if somebody shows a proclivity for misogyny or homophobia or any of that, they're not welcome. They should not be welcome, and they should be shunned and should be gatekept right the fuck out of the scene, because that doesn't belong in punk rock. Any kind of bigotry at all is not a part of my punk rock scene, and I don't fucking want it anywhere near it. So I mean, you have to do a certain level of gatekeeping just to keep the scene safe. And that's what it's for. It's for safety. It's not for cool points. It's not for scene points. It's not for punk points. It's to keep punk rock inclusive and a safe community for people, at least socially. Yeah. There's a lot of unsafe things about punk rock, but it should be safe for people to exist in.
Yeah, put a stop to that shit. Like, call people out. And
but if it's just somebody with bad taste in music, just help them out. And if they like bad music, so fucking what? If they're cool, if they're fun to hang out with, if they have good politics, if they want to be a part of the community, who cares what they listen to?
Right.
Just, listen to what you want, and give them a healthy ribbing every now and again about listening to Taylor Swift, and move on with their day. And have fun with them.
Yeah, if you go to a show and you see somebody standing there in a Green Day shirt or a Smashing Pumpkins shirt or something like that, don't give them shit. They might just be discovering new types of music. And if you go up to them and you start giving them shit and make them feel unwelcome, I mean, they're probably not going to come back. They're going to be
they might go find a Screwdriver record.
Right. You're just driving them right into the arms of the waiting Nazis. I mean, we're saying that kind of as a joke, but also, I mean,
not really,
not completely. I mean, there's a lot of young people, and we'll talk about this a lot in the next episode. But there's a lot of young people who are feeling really, really lost right now, and in particular, I think there's a lot of young men who are feeling really, really lost. And that's exactly who these fascists target. They target young men who don't have a sense of community, who feel lost, who don't really know who they are, or they're trying to figure it out, or they're trying to find somewhere to fit in. And if you go up and start giving these people shit, and then some Nazi bonehead is hanging out outside, sees him open around, it's like, well, why don't you come hang out with me and my friends? Then, well, fuck, there's another Nazi. Cool. One more Nazi we got to worry about now.
I mean, didn't somebody try to recruit you at the mall or some shit?
Town East Mall.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
I mean,
I was already
in the
past
90s,
the point where I was would have ever been interested in anything like that. But yeah.
No, in the 90s, they used to recruit people like that. And, if you were a punk rocker and you gave a little kid some shit, and if that kid was approached by a Nazi, later, they very may well have joined that movement.
Yeah.
And they're more likely to see punk rockers as enemies because of the shit that they were given. Just, you don't have to be a dick, man. Yeah. It's not what punk rock is about.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. So you don't have to be a dick. And when you're a dick, it reinforces a lot of people's preconceived notions about what punk rockers are anyway.
Right. I mean, there's a reason why all those movies in the 80s, the gang members and the bad guys were always like punk rockers. Like I'm not saying that we were the most marginalized group in the 80s or anything by any stretch of the imagination.
Not,
but, at the same time, like usually you see a movie, you see like, what was that fucking Charles Bronson movie where he fires the bazooka into the apartment?
Oh, I don't know.
And he's like perfectly fine afterwards, even though he's like only like 20 feet away from where he fired a fucking bazooka.
I have no idea.
Death Wish.
Death Wish, yeah, okay.
Death Wish, maybe? Oh, fuck, I don't know. Somebody message us about what that Charles Bronson movie's name was. I think it was Death Wish.
Death Wish was his big one.
Okay.
So, yeah, probably.
But yeah, like even the bad guys in that movie, like they all had like mohawks and piercings and, and you see like, the guy with the piercing from his ear to his nose in a bunch of those movies. And the cop is like pulls it out and is just like, you'll give me the information or I'll, and just like doing shit where you're just like, I don't think that's fucking legal to just beat information out of people. And, but, all those conservatives fucking cheer that shit on. But, yeah, punk rockers were always shown to be dicks. So don't be a dick to people who are expecting you to be one.
Yeah.
Like don't give them that. Don't give them what they expect. But like I said, we're definitely not the most marginalized group. I don't want people to take that away from this.
Cis white dudes in the punk scene, any marginalization we receive is basically self-imposed.
Yeah.
As we choose to look the way that we look.
Right. Yeah.
And so now we look mostly like normal dudes, so we don't get any shit anymore. But when we had mohawks and wore spiky leather jackets and stuff like that, part of it was to stand out and to get attention and to be outlandish, and to think that we wouldn't be treated differently is just silly.
Yeah.
Not that we deserve it, but
right.
we knew we would be.
Right.
And that was kind of the point. Aside from liking the fashion, it's also, it was outlandish.
For as much shit as we got when we'd walk by somebody and we had a mohawk, or patches on our hoodie or a leather jacket or whatever, we can take it off.
Yeah, we could change our clothes. We could wash our hair.
Right,
cut our hair.
I would go, especially when I'd go to work. I'd put on my Pizza Hut uniform and would not spike up my mohawk. I'd just put on a ball cap and I just looked like some dude who had a mullet, which is pretty common in Wichita, fucking Kansas. So, I mean, at that point, I would completely fit, and nobody gave me shit. I was living my full white male privilege at that point, and I noticed a difference depending on how I dressed pretty quickly.
Did you ever get followed around at the mall by mall security? That was always fun.
One of those times it was with the Fannings.
Nice.
That was at Town West.
I was at Dillard's one time, and this security guard just kept following me, just would not fucking get off my back. I turned around to him. I turned around and looked at him. I was like, listen, man, I know you're doing your job. I know you think I'm up to no good, but I can guarantee you I don't fucking want anything in this goddamn store. Like, you don't have to follow me around. I'm not going to steal shit from here. I don't fucking want anything from here. Like, go do something else.
Right.
And he was like, looked shocked that I would call him out like that. Just fucking leave me alone, man. I don't fucking want anything here. Go harass somebody else.
That even that level of harassment, like I can't imagine, what it's like to just be, not have a mohawk if you're just like black or trans or something like, something where if you do just stick out and you're just being yourself and people, and you're like, I can't take this off. This is just who I am.
Right. Well, the privilege I had to be able to turn around and tell that security guard that and not have anything happen to me, that's privilege in itself. Like the fact that I could say that to even a security guard, a lot of people can't or don't feel comfortable doing that because they'd probably face more repercussions than I did. I'm really mouthy with fucking cops because I can be.
Yeah. Oh, I've been really mouthy with cops in the past. And, yeah, a lot of the reason I can is because even when I had a mohawk and shit, I was still white. I was still a white kid. Yeah, but yeah, there's lots of times that I got pulled over or harassed by cops where I'm just like, the only reason I'm walking away from this is because I'm white.
What about scene to scene? I don't know if it's really gatekeeping, but shit talking between different punk scenes. Like you guys used to talk shit on us for being political. You know, once we got more crusty, we would talk shit on like spiky punk rockers for being fashion punks. And then the skinheads hated crusties because crusties are lazy and didn't have a good work ethic and shit like that. I don't know if we really need to go into it. I just wanted to say something about that.
That's definitely a real thing. I don't know if it still is.
I have no idea.
It probably is. And in even scene to scene from like different cities, like I remember like, because we were both part of the Lawrence and the Kansas City scene at different times. And I remember there being like a rivalry between those scenes too, of just like,
for sure.
Oh, Lawrence punks. I mean, they live in some college town just smoking weed and being fucking lazy, and they're not real punk rockers because they're just fucking college kids who just
they're fucking townies who don't have to work hard for shit.
I'm a college kid with a Vandals album. Now I'm punk rock, and it's just like them talking shit like that, and then like the Lawrence kids talking shit on the Kansas City kids, like of just
for not caring about politics enough.
Right? Yeah, they're not political enough.
Like between Central House 1 with Eric and all those dudes. I don't. It wasn't a rivalry, but there was definitely shit talking between the two for, the Lawrence kids being, basically trust fund kids, like trust fund punks, which was not true. But
not true at all.
I can see why, like, they might think that of their whatever, and then the Kansas City punks being like, not political enough and just partying and getting wasted.
Which was sort of true.
Valid. I mean, sure. It depends on what you care about though. Like in Kansas City, it was scraping to get by in a city with, I mean, what's Kansas City metropolitan area? 1.5 million, something like that.
It's like 2 million now.
2 million now. But when we were up there, it was about 1.5.
1.5, yeah.
And it was bad up there sometimes. It was tough. I mean, you got stabbed in the fucking neck. People were getting jumped. There was crime. It was not as safe as Lawrence was.
Right.
Lawrence, you could throw a chair in front of a moving cop car and they just shake their head at you and drive on.
Yeah.
And it was easier to live day to day in Lawrence. It was more difficult in Kansas City.
Oh, for sure. And I remember the Lawrence punks, like when I'd ask them, I'd be like, why have you guys lived here for so long? And they said the same thing. They're like, this is a really fucking easy place to live.
Yeah.
It's easy to live here. And if you can make a living, it's just, it's more relaxing than living in Kansas City. I don't have to be on edge. I don't have to worry about, getting jumped or stabbed or shot or, like all the dangerous shit that happened to us in Kansas City at that time. It was really bad around where we lived. Which is funny that like now people, when I'm like, oh, I live in Chicago, and people are like, oh, that must be a war zone. I'm like, actually, this is one of the safest cities I've ever fucking lived in my life. There's a lower crime rate per capita, of course, in Chicago than there is in Wichita or Kansas City. Kansas City has one of the highest in the country of violent crime rates. I mean,
I think Wichita's number 6 or 8.
Yeah. Kansas City's always in the top 10. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wichita's not safe.
I think it's Kansas City's in like the top 5 usually.
Yeah.
Wichita's top 10, Kansas City's top 5.
Right.
I think Chicago Memphis is still number 1.
Chicago for violent crime, makes the top 20, but it's never in the top 10. Not for violent crime.
Right.
If you're just talking about property crime, like maybe it might crack the top 10, but I mean, who cares? Somebody spray painted your garage. Oh no. At least you didn't get stabbed.
Right. So yeah, that rivalry was kind of there, and it just I mean, the criticisms are, I mean, from one vantage point, true, but they also cared about different things. Different things were important to them. Different things were important to me when I lived in Kansas City than were important to me when I lived in Lawrence, and then when I lived in Wichita,
Yeah.
Wichita, I was fairly secure and stable in my living conditions, but there was a lot of emotional and physical chaos going around just because of where I was in my life.
Right.
And Kansas City was hard. It was hard to get by. It was hard to get a job. It was. I didn't feel as unsafe as you did because I didn't get physically attacked.
Yeah.
But you're
just
still
got
on
lucky.
edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all it was. I got lucky. I'm very tall and can be seen as imposing. So that, that gives me a little bit of a leg up on some of the violence. Cause
right.
Who are you going to fuck with? The 5'6", 5'9", whatever,
5'10".
however short you are.
5'10". Thank you. 5'10".
5'10" ginger, or the 6'5" dude with dreadlocks down to the middle of his back. Like, I wasn't a target because, I was bigger and I was also more fucked up, I think, and scarier looking with dreads and
those
spikes
big huge dreads, and you were tall, lanky fuck. Like,
usually stumbling around.
Yeah. People probably thought that you were like on fucking drugs and shit. Like, they probably looked at you and they're like, that motherfucker might stab me, so I'm just going to steer clear.
Right.
Like, you're right. Kansas City was tough for jobs. Like, I never found, until the very end, until I lived at Central House 2, the last time I lived in Kansas City, before I moved back to Lawrence and then left the Kansas City area entirely. When I had my job at the video store and at Little Caesars, things were a little better then. But other than that, I always had trouble finding even the shittiest of jobs. Like, and it wasn't because I was, people might think like, oh, you probably just didn't get hired because you looked too punk. And I'm like, I wasn't going to interviews super punked out. I was like going to interviews in like a polo shirt and fucking clean pants. And like, I looked like, a normie when I'd go to job interviews. So that wasn't it. I don't know what it was. Working was tough. It was tough to find work in Kansas City. Lawrence had plentiful. It was just robust with jobs. There's always jobs. If you lost one job, then somebody would be like, oh well, I know that's how I found out about La Familia. Oh, La Familia's hiring. They need another dishwasher. I was like, oh, dope. I'll go down there. They hired me on the spot. Super easy.
Yeah, it was. It was also easy being homeless in Lawrence. It would not have been easy being homeless in Kansas City. It would have been really, really, really fucking hard.
Kansas City's a crueler city overall.
Yeah,
than Lawrence.
I went my 4-month stretch of being homeless in Lawrence wasn't that bad. Like, it sucked, but I slept on a friend's couch for a month. I slept on a different friend's couch for a month. And then it got bad. I slept on an enclosed porch in February. I had no heating, but I had to go buy a space heater and a sleeping bag and sleep on the back porch. And it was like 10 degrees outside and snowing almost the whole time I was on that back fucking porch. And I slept on that back porch for a fucking month. Like, pretty much all of February. I was on a back porch in snow, freezing my ass off. It would have been 20 times worse in Kansas City.
Well, and you had things in Lawrence too, because there were so many students and so many random houses, not necessarily all just punk houses either. There was hippie houses, there was indie kid houses, there was just college kid houses. You could always, there was times I woke up in random houses. I didn't know where the fuck I was. Right. I mean, it's a small enough town to where like you know generally where you are. I mean, it's a very walkable town. That makes it easier too. Lawrence is walkable.
Yeah.
Kansas City is not walkable except for the very center of it.
Right. Well, I mean, where we lived, I walked everywhere I went.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when I lived with Leahy, I wound up being gifted a stolen bike. So that made getting to work a little easier. Because it was a way longer walk to work from Leahy's than it was from our first apartment. That was like probably a mile and a half walk to work from Boston Apartments. Yeah. And it was like two and a half from Leahy's.
Oh, yeah. Because you had to walk across the entire plaza.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then up Main.
And then north.
Yeah.
For
uphill.
Like
That's uphill too. That fucks uphill like super uphill. You could in Lawrence, you could you'd go somewhere, get fucking hammered, and I mean, there was times I crashed at the Haunted Kitchen. I lived in Lawrence. I lived within walking distance of the Haunted Kitchen, but I got so drunk that I just crashed there. I just passed out, and they were fine with it. You could do stuff like that in Lawrence.
Yeah.
It didn't really, stuff like that didn't really happen in Kansas City. I mean, I think there was a couple of times that I like ended up crashing on the floor of the Rainbow House, but that was few and far between. It wasn't a common thing.
Yeah, whenever I passed out at the Central House, whenever I wound up waking up, usually because I spilled beer on my pants, I would wake up and then stumble home at 3 or 4 in the morning and go sleep in my bed and get up at 8 and go to work.
Yeah.
I don't know how I woke up in the mornings to get to work.
I have no idea.
No clue.
Dude, I have 2 beers now and like go to bed at like 9:30 after having 2 beers, and I wake up the next day and I'm like, I don't want to get up.
Yeah.
After like a full like 8-9 hours of sleep, I'm still like, I can't get up. But yeah, I used to do that shit all the time too. I'd drink fucking 12 beers and crash at 4 in the morning. Yeah.
4 in the morning, yeah.
Get up by 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Go to work.
I don't know how. Yeah. I fucking did it. It's crazy.
Coffee helped, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like Jerry Bear said earlier in the podcast, Shout Wichita did an article about us called Old Punks on the Block. I love the title.
Yeah.
So everybody should go read that article and then also read other stuff from Shout as well.
Yeah. We did the interview back in June. It's just taken so long to get it out with so much happening. I think some of the stuff this fall and later summer that happened kind of distracted from whatever, and it wound up coming out towards the end of November instead of July, I think, which was originally planned. But anyway, that doesn't matter. It was a really good article, I think. It was really fun. It was nice talking to Kevin and getting to talk about what we're doing. And I'm excited that, somebody noticed and wanted to do the article about us. That's always humbling, even if we don't have a shit ton of subscribers and listeners right now. It's good. I'm stoked that some people are noticing. And I just really want to thank them for doing the piece. And you should definitely go check them out. They did a really good article. There's a new space in Wichita for like sober hangs. It's for adults who do not drink alcohol and still want like a scene or club environment, I guess. I haven't been there because I'm old and don't need to go out anymore, but it would have been nice to have that option when I was younger and struggling with sobriety, to feel like there was a place I could go to still have fun. Because that was one of the hardest things about not drinking anymore, was thinking that I'd never be able to have fun again. They do stories about local artists, lots of music stuff. Yeah, like Nick Wellen said, there will be links to that on our website.
Yeah, they haven't been around very long. They've only been around for like a year, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Coming up on 2 years maybe.
But I feel like, and I guess you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't live in Wichita anymore, but I feel like they are kind of, we talk about filling gaps a lot. on our show. We haven't talked about it this episode, but I feel like they're filling a gap that was there. Because I don't know if there is a lot of independent journalism in Wichita. I feel like there's not.
Not right now. From 2003 until 2013, maybe. F5 was in publication. It was really similar to like The Pitch in Kansas City. My friend Mike created that, and it was great. It was a great resource when the music scene in Wichita was thriving when I was a part of it. I don't know the state of the music scene now. It seems like it's going pretty well. There's good turnout for the show on Saturday, and seem to be quite a few bands. But yeah, there's no local independent publication. There hadn't been for a while. F5 was great. I just discovered a local zine here called Oi Bones, and they cover local shows and politics and stuff. It's a punk rock zine. But yeah, not a whole lot of independent journalism. So it's really good to see the Shout doing that.
Go read that article, and maybe we
share
should
share it with people.
Yeah, we should put a link to it on our. We'll put a link in the description for this episode. And it's also on our website, on our homepage. So
one of the things we haven't really done with this podcast when we end is ask people to share it with other people. We would like to have more listeners and more subscribers because we want people to enjoy what we do. So if you feel inclined, share our podcast with people, tell people about it. We would really like that and like to have more people listen and more interactions with people. So, we're going to do it regardless, but if there were more people listening, that would be super cool.
And if you do, no matter what, platform you listen to us on, and if there's any way, and especially on YouTube, if you do listen to us there, make sure you hit subscribe. We appreciate all the views we get, but our subscriber count is nowhere near what our viewership is. So please hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and hit like, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those too. Just interact somehow. Rate us, review us, and reach out to us if you have. If there's something you think that we've missed too. Especially if you were a part of the Wichita scene, or if you're a part of the Wichita scene now, or the Kansas City scene, or the Lawrence scene, or the Manhattan scene, or the St. Louis scene, or the Columbia, Missouri scene, reach out and send us your stories. Let us know what your story was.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And, if I was a dick to you back in the day, sorry.
Yeah, me too. If you're listening to this podcast and you've known me for a long time, odds are I was a dick to you at some point. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've grown since then. I promise. All right. Everybody. And please don't forget to go to our website, www.prairiepunkpress.com. All of our links are on there. You can find everything there. You can also find, if you click on our Twitter link, it will take you to an article that tells you how to delete your Twitter. Delete your Twitter. Fuck Elon Musk. Don't give that man anything. If you have a Tesla, go sell that shit, and go get something that's not a Tesla. Go get a fucking Nissan Leaf or some shit like that. Yeah.
And if you have a Cybertruck, why are you even listening to us?
Right, unless you just hate listening to us. I was on the highway the other day, and there was a Cybertruck that was just zooming up right behind me. I was in the passing lane because I was passing. I was probably going 10 over the speed limit.
Yeah,
which is not too bad in Chicago.
Safe. Yeah.
And so this Cybertruck, I see it in my rearview mirror coming right up behind me, and it's coming up fast. So I make sure that I stay in the left lane a little bit longer than I normally would, and then as soon as it swerves behind me, I just immediately get over into the right lane. So it has to swerve back to the left lane.
Right.
Again.
Well, it's illegal to pass on the right.
It is. Yeah. I'm just helping enforce the laws.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing your duty as a citizen to yield to faster moving traffic. It's not your fault that he zipped in the other lane illegally.
I'm not trying to talk shit on people's looks. I did get a good look at the guy. He 100% like had a chin beard and like was wearing like an oversized hoodie. I'm a hoodie guy myself. I wear hoodies all the time. But yeah, chin beard, oversized hoodie, and yeah, white guy about my age. He was probably about my age. I mean, basically, I could have gone to high school with this asshole. He just looked like all those dick dudes I went to high school with who were just super into Limp Bizkit. He looked like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not trying to yuck your yum if you like Limp Bizkit, but come on. You know who I'm talking about. He got off the exit for the mall. I did notice that. Yeah. I saw him exit and I was like, he's going to the mall. Shocker.
Pick up some chicks in his cyber truck.
Yep.
that will definitely impress them.
At this point, if you own a Cybertruck at all, and if you still own a Tesla at this point, you're making a statement. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if you bought a Tesla in 2016 because you just wanted an electric car, that's one thing. But if you're buying Teslas now, you're making a statement.
Yeah.
There are other electric vehicles out there that are cheaper and better.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, you just want to give Elon Musk your money. And if you do, then you must be listening to this podcast.
We welcome the haters too.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Go ahead and give us that thumbs down if you want to, because that is still interaction. So,
yep.
Thanks, YouTube.
Comment. Send us an email.
Yeah. Oh, we did get some dislikes on our Trump one for YouTube.
Did we?
Yeah.
Really? That's funny.
So I'm sure somebody listening was like, what? This punk rock podcast doesn't like Donald Trump? Thanks for listening, everybody. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening.